tell me when I could, because I'm literally, I can't see you. I can't. I've just got I've got two screens with Lost in Transition on it, but I can, just
so
go
Marge
straight
has started that recording for us now. Thank you, Marge.
Brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's John. I'm from Learning by Questions, or LbQ for short. And this afternoon, we're going to be looking at something called Lost in Transition, and I hope you enjoyed the pun as much as we did on that one. Well, SATs are over. Thank heavens for that. I'm sure you're all relieved. And before you all head out on your residentials or get stuck in your productions of Matilda or whatever happens that you are going to be doing, I thought we would spend a little bit of time and share with you some thoughts for helping your children manage, and helping you to help your children manage and cope with that this big thing that happens at this time of year called transition as well. So what we're going to be doing, and what have I done here again? Sorry, there we go. Let's just move that on there. There we go. So what we're going to be doing is looking at some top tips on how we can help you settle your children in and make it a fun time, of course. So transitions are exciting, and they're in every year group as well, of course. The biggest one, and the one we talk about the most, is that step up to, or that big step up to secondary school, new teachers, new routines, new friends, lots to look forward to. It is exciting, but not for everybody. Let's be frank about this. We've had COVID as well, and that's caused a lot of sort of anxiety issues as well. And it can be a scary time for some pupils as well. Period of high anxiety and stress. The EEF themselves go further and say that some pupils are vulnerable to poor academic progression and disengagement during transition as well. But even if they are happy and looking forward to it, do you know what? There are 5 months till September. 5 whole months. My daughter, she's just rung me up, and she's got 5 months till September. She's just finished her coursework at university, but she's 18, and we're talking about 8, 9, 10-year-olds here. So that's a long old time, and that's a long period of time to not to be kind of learning still. Learning can be lost as well. Retrieval practice is important, and skills as well. I'm going to talk about skills, and really the key is here is not to let the learning slide. And we're going to talk about some top tips. I'm going to give you some top tips, 3 top tips really here. And top tip number 1, stay in the game. Okay, stay in the game. So I came across, I'm sports mad. I love sports. And this is actually, I don't know if you realize this, but this is actually a picture of a rugby match and a rugby pitch. Those are rugby players, believe it or not. But what you might be able to see in this picture are some people on an exercise bike here, what the arrows are pointing to. And you might think, well, that's odd. Why are they doing that? And it's a rugby game. They're not going for a bike ride, surely. No, that's not what it's about. And I often think that SAT slog, whether you're in year 2 or in year 6, is akin to a kind of intense game of rugby. How so? You think, oh, what is he on about? And what do we mean by this as well? So let me explain what this even means here, staying in the game at all. But basically, in a nutshell, what we're saying is, if you're going to start secondary confidently, or even year 3 or key stage 2 confidently, you need to keep your legs, in this case, or in the case of schools, you need to keep your brains ticking over and topping up that learning. So that's what we're talking about here, is we don't want them to go completely stagnant. We need to keep them a little bit active, ticking over. And that doesn't mean we're going to do SATs preparation all over again. No, that intensity revision. No. We are talking about some fun, low anxiety, low stakes quizzes where they don't even realize they're really being kind of, there's a lot of learning going on, because they can get the iPads out or the laptops or whatever. And there are some still important milestones to be done really here as well. There are end of block reviews. There are ready to progress assessments, of course, and ready to progress criteria, which came out a couple of years ago from the DfE, and end of topic and end of year reviews. And I'm going to show you what we mean, or how we can, what can be done, and how you can do that. And we're going to give you a little bit of a demonstration here from LbQ. So if you do have a handset handy, and obviously this, if you're live, you can do this. If you're watching this after the event, it's a bit like voting in Eurovision. If you're watching this after May the 19th, don't vote now, because the lines will have already closed. In other words, so yeah, that code won't be available if you're watching this after. But if you're live in the session, you happen to be joining me, fantastic. You can jump on, we can make it interactive, and we can have some fun. And this is where you're going to go, folks, here. And I'm going to give you a little demonstration of what we can do. And just before I do that, I'm just going to give you a very, very quick intro of what LbQ is about, while everybody out there is going to that particular thing and sorting themselves out. LbQ, it's a unique formative assessment system. It saves teachers a massive amount of time, but ultimately it helps children make rapid progress. And it does this using the power of instant feedback and targeted intervention as well. So what do we mean by that? Is children get feedback at the point of learning. So if they get a question wrong, we tell them why they've got it wrong and what they've got to do to get it right. And this is what you, the teacher, sees. You see who's got it right, who's got it wrong, who's struggling. It's fantastic for gap analysis and allows you to intervene there and then in the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint now. I'm going to jump into the actual, there we go. I'm going to jump into here. Fantastic. Some people have joined. I'm going to join as well and just show you how easy it is to join. I'm going to put my name in. Thank you. And there we go. Bob Builder, that's me. Okay, and I'm going to pick there we go, that's my passcode, and I'm away. And there we go, ready to progress. I'm joining the class. So you can see here, I'm now joining as a pupil. That's my name. So here's my question, estimate the arrow pointing to the number line. For example, here's some scaffolding or some nice visual representation. Okay, I can have a go, for example. There we go, I think it's about there. And again, I get feedback. It tells me it's wrong, but it doesn't tell me. It tells me what I need to do to work it out to get it right. And I can have another go. So I can retry that and have another go. And fantastic, I've got that one right. I can go next. Let's say, okay, hedge was cut 230 centimeters tall. How many centimeters did the cot of essentially? Oh, okay, I think I can get that one. There we go. I think, yeah, fantastic. Okay, and you see how it works. And there's lots of skills in here. So lots of a lot of these, how these question sets have been devised and constructed is that, a lot of teacher feedback to say what skills children need to progress to the next stage of their learning. So okay, so I can put in here some answers. I can get that correct. But again, okay, if I put, for example, let's say something like that, again, it tells me it's really useful feedback and I can progress through that. Now, as a teacher, what I can see, for example, is how everybody is getting on for it, as it were. So I can see where the issues are. So this is a practice question set. I can see they're answering in no particular order. I can see who's engaged here, for example. But what we've also done is, if I go to show you what my Blue Peter screen, so to speak, this is one we did earlier, and this is a kind of a maths mastery question set. So you've got 4 levels of increasing difficulty. So we start with level 1 understanding before we move on to fluency, reasoning, and then problem solving. You can see straight away, green is correct first time, amber with a number is correct eventually. There's no limit on the amount of attempts they can have, and red means they've got it wrong. They've still got it wrong. So straight away, I'm not having to guess where the issues are, where the support's required. I can literally drill down and say, okay, this child's answered that 10 times. What's going on here? I can see they put the same answer in several times, so they're either not reading the feedback or they're convinced they're right, for example. And if I go back to my current thing here, see, I can see people too kind of struggling a bit, maybe, or there may be a given question where they're all kind of getting a particular answer wrong. So what I can do here, I've got a really sneaky, very powerful tool called pause. And what pause does, it freezes everybody's screens. So for example, I can see here's my screen's been frozen. I can't do anything. Why have I frozen the screen? Quite simply because let's say it's a question like 25 or question like 15 or 16, where the majority of children are getting something wrong. I can step in. Let's just pretend there's about 20, 25 children, 30 children in my class. I can say, well, actually, let's have a look at question 7. Let's bring that up again on the interactive screen at the front of the class. And it says, what is the missing number from this calculation? So 726 equals 6 plus something plus 20. Okay. So, and what I could do is, there's several ways I could do to work this. I could take my pen tools. I could say, well, look, folks, they have to take 726. Let's subtract to work it out. Well, 6 and 20 are 26. So what am I left with? It's left with my answer. And then I can then send that out to everybody again in there. And this time when I send it out, they get my annotations on their screen. So it's a double whammy. Not only do the children get the feedback from the platform when they make a mistake the first time, telling them how to perhaps do it differently to get it right, the teacher can step in as well. And no matter where they are in the activity, everybody has to answer this particular question. I can see, and as the teacher, I can see here, brilliant. Everybody's now got this right who's attempted it, and phew, I'm happy. I'm reassured. No one need leave the lesson not having understood this, and we can move on, and I can let them move on. That is really powerful to be able to do that kind of thing as well. So that's what you can do. There are, and I'm going to talk about the breadth and the depth of the content probably in a little bit. Well, I can show you now actually. There are just how many. If I go back to my main dashboard, I'm looking at maths. We've got all sorts from year 1, year 2 up to year 7, and obviously secondary beyond, but I filtered that all out. And in terms of things like assessment, you've got things like not just your SATs papers here, but your end of year reviews from end of year 2, end of year 2, end of year 3, end of year 4, 5, 6, your topic reviews, and also your multiplication table checks, year 4 about this time of year, isn't it, as well? And all your ready to progress question sets as well. Loads there for you to be getting your teeth into at this time of year. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to explain a little bit more detail how you can get access to this, because we do have an offer of a giveaway, which I'll talk about at the end shortly. But first of all, I'm sure excited to hear about my top tip 2 for transitions as well. So let's move on. So sharing is caring. How many of you remember this advert? I remember, so I'm a child of the 80s. I grew up sort of late 70s, 80s, and I remember this really, really well. And I think it was just such a clever advert. And I can even remember the strap line. I don't know if you remember the strap line, but does anybody remember the strap line of this? And I think it was something along the lines of, do you love anyone? Do you love anyone enough to give them your last Rolo? I think it's a great advert, very simple, and I like the drawing, the artist, the way that they did that. And what's the relevance here? I hear you say, okay, but the right point is sharing is caring. That's the strapline. And of course, transitions apply to all classes from year 2 to year 3, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, all the way up, from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 6 to 7. Absolutely importantly. And what we're talking about here, what we're suggesting is that actually, and I'm not just talking about the children as well. Of course, you have a reshuffle of teachers as well. They may change classes too, of course, as well. What we're talking about here is a sharing of information or data about pupil progress within the school, and this is vital. The EEF talk about the importance of communication, and that's just not just between invested parties like parental engagement and secondary school, but within the school as well. And what do we mean by that? And how does that work? So a lot of teachers report, because we hear this feedback, it's well researched, that there's a stress around the September start. Everything's kind of built up to how do you say, a new class, a new beginnings, new cohort. You've got a new set of children. Who are they? What do they know? What don't they know? How are they feeling? And but if you were to talk to their class teacher about where they're at, or what they know, or what they don't know, that's a really good, forewarned is forearmed, as they used to say, isn't it? And what does that mean here? And how can we relate it to something like learning by questions, for example? So we have something called Class Track. And this is Class Track, as you can see here. And what Class Track is, if you, other than what looks like a DNA sample to everybody at the moment, what Class Track is simply, if you remember that kind of results data from that lesson that we just pulled up a moment ago, this is a collection of lots of those different types of results. And I'll show exactly what we mean, whereby you can see exactly how your class has performed over an academic year and drill down to individual children. So, for example, this is maths. This is a particular topic called multiplication division, but we can look at other ones as well here. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to jump in live to the platform again to show you, because I just think that's more meaningful, because I can actually click on the links which are clickable. So this is what we call Class Track. When you use LbQ, it's nothing that you need to do per se to use it. But basically, as this explains, the more green, the more filled it is, the more correct the answers are. The less filled it is, the less questions they've answered. If it's yellow, that means they've kind of had a certain number of attempts before they've got it wrong. If it's red, it's largely wrong. So you can see here straight away where some of the, how pupils are getting on. And if I wanted to drill down to individual children, let's click on Daisy, for example. I don't know Daisy, I've never taught her before, but her year 3 teacher is sharing this with me, or this is year 4, so I'm her year 5 teacher. And this is what they're sharing with me, because this is what Daisy has done over the academic year. I can see she's done her multiplication times table check there. She's done really well. It's all green, for example. She's done really well against the class average. But actually, let's move on a few things here. A few weeks later, she's done a multiply 2-digit numbers by 1-digit number. So actually, we've just added a little bit of complexity in there. And it looks like she's had a few issues. And I can see that she's mostly orange against the class average, which is mostly yellow. So if I want to, I can drill down and more closely inspect actually how she's performed, and I can see she's done not too bad on the first level, but the second level, the fluency, she struggled a bit, and she's made a bit of a Horlicks of question 15. But actually, they've all made a bit of a Horlicks of question 15 as well. That's quite a common question. I can see if I wanted to, for example, if I click here, which are the most challenging questions? Question 15 bears that out. There's your evidence, there's your data, answered 46 times incorrectly, and not just by Daisy. So that kind of question, if I guess what I can do is I can say, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to make a note of that. I'm going to ask those types of questions in future. Okay, so that's caused them a bit of a problem. So yeah, that forewarned is forearmed. The more information we have about this, our children, the better we are going into September, and we kind of half know them already in terms of their progression as well. And this is a really great area for them to have a look at. So I hope that makes sense. It's called Class Track. It's all part of learning by questions. I'll show you how you can access learning by questions a little bit later. But first, we have to hear about tip number 3, which I'm sure you're all dying to know what we're going to say here. So let's go back onto that. Let's go back onto my PowerPoint slideshow, for example, and let's get individual progress. That's what we did. So experience big school before big school. So I found this image and it did make me chuckle. I'm sure that's how some children, not everybody, hopefully, I'm sure they don't. We don't want them to feel like this, of course, but that may be how, if they have a rampant imagination, that's how maybe some children may be thinking of the next step in their learning journey, and what's behind or inside that spooky, dilapidated house. It looks like something out of Scooby-Doo, doesn't it, a little bit, if it was animated. And they talk about Year 7 dip. It's a well-researched phenomenon, isn't it? And of course, I'm not just talking about secondary school. That's the one everybody talks about, but it could be going to from first school to a junior school, for example. And this applies in that environment. Of course, it does. And what we want to do is we want to show you and share with you how we can help reduce the anxiety for year 6 pupils. So hopefully it becomes more like, I don't know, I was going to say a set of friends, but do you know what I mean? You get the idea, I think, so we can dispel that kind of those bad dreams, as they say. So here are some of the top tips that teachers shared on Twitter, for example, and I'm going to run with you. I think they make a lot of sense, and I'm sure you know many schools that are doing them already. Year 7 pen pals, great idea. Linking up with year 6 pupils, with young people who went through what they're about to go through, is a great way for year 6 pupils to ask their peers their burning questions. It also means that when September arrives, new year 7s will already know pupils in year 8 who can help them when they get lost or confused, maybe. I've even heard of a buddy system as well. I think that also can exist. That's a really good idea, so that the first 2 weeks maybe they have a buddy that help them move around the school and get to the right place at the right time. As well. So things like secondary week and primary schools, and this week primary schools can recreate difficult and sometimes confusing logistics that often are experienced in the first few weeks of secondary school. Children move around schools to different classrooms with different teachers, teaching different subjects throughout the day. As well, that is a good idea. Of course, there's secondary school visits as well, and this is a very popular thing at this time of year as well, and that requires parental engagement, of course, but it's one of the most commonly suggested ways to help pupils with secondary transitions. Some suggested one visit, others suggested a day a week for the whole of the final term. I'm not sure that's entirely necessary. That takes a lot of organizing, I would have thought, but it's kind of, it's helping them familiarize and settle in. But anyway, pupils are sure to see the benefit from seeing and experiencing the school they're going to attend to as part of a proper school day before the big day arrives, of course. Okay, and of course, I'm not going to end this without saying how LbQ, of course, can help, which is what I want to share with you too, as well. So, of course, if your children are in year 6, we can help them experience big school topics as well. There's no reason why they can't do it with that. They can access year 7 materials, and I'm just going to pop my little kind of thing here. Let's just pop into here, for example, one more time, and I'm going to show you here. So this is LbQ. This is my login. So I've not got just access to, for example, year 7. But if I went to go to, let's say, if I was looking for something around about June time and to end of June, algebra topic review. So not only have I got year 5 materials, year 6 materials here, I've also got some year 7 materials as well. we can have a look at as well. So if I go, let's go up to and find something where we go. Let's go up to algebra itself. So there we go, year 5, year 6, year 7, algebra introductions topic review. Well, hey, why not? You know, you can absolutely give them something. And what's quite nice is this is a mastery question set, so there is a level of understanding first. We ease them in gently. So for example, you've got this understanding level. There's lots of really great representations and illustrations. For example, you can do all sorts of things. So we move them through gently before we move them on to fluency, before we move them on to reasoning, and for all those kind of things. But you can decide. You know, you might have some children that are capable of doing that, not everybody. That's absolutely fine. You can run more than one task at the same time. If we go to here, so I'm remember this, ready to progress from primary, number and place value. I could add a task in there. I think actually I've got a handful of people who are ready to look at some of more advanced stuff already. You can choose what you want, and what teachers tell us is what they like about LbQ. One of the many things they like about LbQ is the sheer breadth and depth of what it is there is to offer. I mean, the devil is in the detail, but there are over 100,000 questions here on our platform for you to pick and choose. You can narrow your search down here. You can narrow your filters down here. If I wanted to, I could go up. Well, we do go all the way up to year 11, but I've chosen just to hide those resources for the time being. But you can access what you want here as well. And we've got English, of course, as well, and lots of reading. And too, you could do loads and loads of reading as well if you're doing writing and moderation, of course. At this time of year too. So there's lots to be going at as well. So we're on the final furlongs. If I'm going to using a sports analogy again, let's go back to our sports. We're in the final furlongs of this presentation, and I'm going to talk to you now about what's the offer today? What are we helping you with today? So there is a free transition resource pack we are giving away, and these. So again, I'm going to go on to here. Let's just jump into here very quickly. But basically, we've created an interactive digital booklet that has clickable links to question sets for every year group. I'll show you what that looks like, because it's really great, and we've taken a lot of time to bring up. So here's, for example, the top 10 math skills for transition. Here's some of the top 10 math skills. And this is what teachers told us that children need in terms of skills. And and this is a really important point, I think. You may not have covered the whole curriculum. You might not have had time to. You know, it's a packed timetable. It's a packed year. I get that. We get that. But what you can do is you can focus on skills, you know, for example, and the skill is how to do something, of course, isn't it? So, and these are top 10 math skills that teachers have suggested that children going from year 6 to year 7, they really need to have. And what we've done is we've taken those, and then our geniuses, our authors have got to work, and they've created a skills pack for you, transition skills. There's 10 there with all these types of questions in which you can get. And what we're saying is we will give you this when you book onto a free trial. It's not going to cost you anything. It's just, okay, the only thing it's going to cost you is a little bit of time, but guess what? You get that back in the bucket loads. You can try it for yourself, lbq.org/trial. Or you could email me, for example, or anybody at Entrust, for example, and they'll pass those details on, of course, as well. But basically, I just pop to here again. I'm just going to go over to here, and if I put in lbq.org/trial, you see how easy that was to type. You could just join on one of these trials. There's either a 2-week light trial, and you can see the differences in what you get, or you get a 6-week supported trial. That's like a mini subscription. It's like having test driving a car from the dealership and getting it for the week and allowing you to take it on holiday with you and do whatever you want to with it and go camping with it. I don't know. You get to fully test it out in your own setting. We even train you up beforehand to show you how to use it, so you're not going in blind to it. And that's very popular as well. So if you take out one of these trials, you get the digital support pack as well. And if you've not heard of LbQ before, this is the first time or maybe you haven't, I don't know. But just to give you a sense of its popularity now. So LbQ has been going for about 4 or 5 years. 2 weeks ago, literally in the last 2 weeks, we had our all-time record usage on our platform from schools. Yep, SATs might have had something to do with that, I guess, and obviously, you know, preparation and revision for that. And I'll let you know that there was a staggering 7 million answers on our platform in 1 week alone. And yeah, teachers love it. Children, they love it because they get to see things like, I go back a couple of things here. This, in a nutshell, tells them exactly who said what, where the gaps are, what they need to do to work it out. Whether you're in year 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, you know, you can see straight away who's got it and who hasn't got it. But I'm going to end on that note. I think I've talked for long enough. All that remains for me to say is to wish your children the best of luck in the next step of their learning journeys. I hope they settle into the next stage if they're doing it secondary really well. I'm sure they will. If hopefully they take on some of those tips, for example, like experiencing big school before big school, sharing is caring, of course, and of course staying in the game. Let's not forget that as well. So that's it from me. If anybody's got any questions, thank you for listening, of course. If anybody's got any questions, now's a good time to let me know, or you can email them afterwards. Absolutely not an issue, whether you've got them now or later. Happy to field any questions. But thank you for listening, folks.
John, that was a fabulous walk through LbQ and the power really that it places in both the hands of the learner as well as the teacher. And I have to say, John, it was so slick, your presentation there. I almost felt like I could buy something from you on the QVC shopping channel. It was really fabulous. But I truly believe that the reason for it being so good is because you have total confidence in what LbQ has to offer. And it's not just you who has confidence in that. Your users quite clearly have confidence in it, as demonstrated by those numbers that you were talking about coming up in the approach to SATs and so on. You know, teachers are saying that this is a valuable resource. And we know that teachers are not all about SATs. Teachers are about improving children's ability to learn. And I think that's what LbQ is strong at. It's helping children, quite simply, to learn, to develop deep subject knowledge, to develop appropriate strategies for solving problems. And it provides a route for the teacher to be involved in the heart of that process as well. You give them that opportunity to intervene, to interact and deal with the peculiar, the individual problems that arise in a child's learning experience as they undertake, you know, the questions and the challenges of those questions before them. So I think it's a unique proposition and one that's really strong for schools. So I know if anybody is watching this now and are interested, I would reiterate to get in contact, to sign up for those free trials that John was talking about there. You can get in contact with John either via your Entrust account manager or your normal Entrust routes, or directly with John himself, as he showed his contact details earlier there. John, really fabulous. I love the idea of smoothing out, if you like, that dip that we see coming in the summer. That dip has been there since probably, I'm not going to say since time began, but since harvest. You know, and that 6-week break was there. That's a product of 19th century designed for education, isn't it, or an earlier 20th century. That 6-week gap,
crazy, isn't it?
is designed to get the youngsters out in the fields and harvesting, and and maybe, you know, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
That was a very bad day. I'm thinking my children, yeah.
But let's difficulty that places them in when they get back to school, because they will have forgotten stuff.
I know, absolutely dead right. You're dead right.
And this helps them to maintain that learning journey that they've been on through the year.
No, indeed it does. No, you're spot on, Brent. Absolutely, yeah. And to coin another sort of marketing or advertisement from the TV. So you know, you're right in about LbQ and the confidence teachers have in it. It does what it says on the tin. It's incredibly simple to use, and children love it. And it's been delightful to sit here for the last 6 or 8 weeks since February half term, literally, particularly with this program that we've had of teachers trialing it with SATs in mind, of course, and literally the opening statement is the children absolutely love it. The children absolutely love it. The children absolutely love it, and they absolutely do. They don't even realise they're learning, and the teachers absolutely love it because they're not having to mark one single question, but they can see straight away who's got it and who hasn't got it, and it allows them to pinpoint with accuracy instantaneously where those gaps are.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, John.
No problem. It's been a delight.
Hugely valuable. And we shall look forward to catching up with you again in the near future.
Brilliant. Indeed. Thank you ever so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, John.
I've got to send my son out to the fields now.
Go on.
Take
Wonderful.
care.
Thank you.
Good.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.